Hello everyone, just a quick note before I start this video. It is not an attempt to attack any one individual person, but rather ideas that I find do not reflect reality. In order to continue with this, it is not an attempt to change anyone's mind. I need to make that clear, that it is an attempt to ask the question, if I am not non-binary, then what the hell am I? So keep that in mind when you're watching the video. Also, there will be mention of homophobic, transphobic slurs and language, and also a lot of explicit detail when it comes to bodily anatomy and sexual content. Just references to things, but if any of that is disturbing or triggering to you, then you might want to skip over part 2 of this video. Thank you, and please enjoy. Hello there everyone, Joy here, and I need to explain something about this video before we begin. It is about 2 trans people who post videos on YouTube. The first, as you might obviously be able to tell from the title of this video, is Rose of Dawn. The second is, of course, myself. Let me explain before I begin. So this is not really about Rose herself. This could be about anyone who believes that non-binary identities are not valid. She just happened to upload a video handily explaining the reasons behind her beliefs. So this is not a video that's a response video as such, but it will contain rebuttals to her because her beliefs reflect the beliefs of other people who also think the same way she does. Also, I did plan on doing a video to respond to that video that she made, but the timing was always just bad. Like, other stuff was going on, I had other plans, and then the virus happened, and everyone was up a certain river of excrement without any means of viable propulsion. It's not like her reputation is in good standing at the moment anyway. Not that I know if it ever was, but thanks to ContraPoints and the video that she published, Cringe, Natalie Wynn lashed out at Rose for her constant attacks on Jessica Yaniv. Not in defense of Yaniv or anything, but the way she attacks others, Natalie deems as cringeworthy. Just to scramble for acceptance in the cool kids club, and we all know who the head of that club is. She who shall not be named, I'm just going to call her Voldemort. I'm not going into that now, of course, because that's already been done. But to address Rose, her audience, and people who think like her, just because one's opponent / interlocutor is a garbage human being, doesn't give you the license to sink to that level. So let's get into the video. So on the 14th of January 2020, Rose of Dawn published a video titled "Non-Binary is Meaningless," the title of which is about as antagonistic as the Trans Stupid series, where she shits on other trans people and creators and, you know, people within the community. Where, if my suspicions are correct, I may well find myself sometime by the end of next week. Who fucking knows? I'm willing to take those lumps. So, you know, because I think I'm right. So in the video, she claims to know the real truth about what non-binary means, based on her extensive scientific research, based on a trending Twitter hashtag, asking people what non-binary means to them. Dollars to donuts, she didn't ask anyone who identifies as NB directly. She calls non-binary, quote, nothing, meaningless, pointless. Then says that it's not an attack on people who identify as non-binary. I'm sorry, what? You can't just call the identity a core part of my identity not valid and say that it's not personal. Like, that's just an insult, which is an attack on me and other people like me. Rose recognizes that some people say that one doesn't need dysphoria to be trans. I'm not sure what her personal views on that are. I think I can guess. But she criticizes one person who mentions that they express their dysphoria over being perceived either male or female. And that's what being NB means to them. But then she also criticizes someone who seems and presents like they're assigned gender at birth, but doesn't like being referred to as such, tearing them down, saying that they didn't experience dysphoria. So she's basically measuring two people by the standard of only one of them. And how is that fair? And how would she know if that person does experience dysphoria or not? Because their tweet did not mention it. She also managed to find the one example of someone using aggressive language. Now, she didn't explicitly state that this was the attitude of all NBs, because I think she knows that that would get her into trouble. But it was implied. Also, I think that that tweet was hyperbolic for the sake of I don't know what, but I'm guessing sarcasm here. And sarcasm really doesn't translate well over text, especially if you're limited to 160 characters. Rose then criticizes NB identities for correlating with far-left ideologies. She claims that if non-binary was real, then it would be seen all over the political spectrum. And she sort of has a little bit of a point when it comes to comparing other LGBT plus identities, saying that if it's an ideology, then it's not a gender, then it's not valid. But maybe it's in our best interest of self-preservation not to align with the Tories and the Republicans of the world. Maybe it's because non-binary is more widely found in younger people who are also more leaning towards the left wing. I also speculate that it's because right-wingers aren't as open-minded enough yet to accept themselves or others around them as non-binary. So why would anyone who's right-wing come out? Rose also manages to strawman someone's tweet that explains non-binary as, quote, not being restricted by/to the gender binary. Sounds kind of self-explanatory, really, but she then goes on to explain examples of what are gender non-conforming behaviours in response to the tweet that doesn't even mention behaviour or gender roles. These are not valid criticisms. Rose also completely misses the mark when it comes to understanding the difference between outward presentation and inner identity by reacting thusly, and again I quote, "According to Twitter, a guy with a beard can also be non-binary because he calls himself they. Doesn't matter how this one person looks. If they want to be called they, you respect that, and you don't call them he. Just because of the gender stereotypes that we've all been raised with. That's the point of coming out as non-binary. It's not so much to appease randos in the street that will clock you as whatever and, you know, see a person like, they're not going to know your true identity unless they know you. The point is asking for respect from those who do know what that person's identity is." Then, after 10 minutes or so, Rose decided to pull the pin on her bigotry grenade. She said she thinks non-binary doesn't have meaning because no one has followed one set of criteria. I mean, so much diversity in one group of people. How awful! The only thing that makes a person non-binary is them admitting that they identify that way. And according to her, us asking others to respect our identities and pronouns is forcing others to play along with our delusion. It's funny how that's the same argument transphobes use against all trans people, and she ought to know better. She claims that our standard of admitting our own identity isn't a standard good enough for her. But she's wrong. No one knows what's going on in someone else's head unless they are communicating that. How else are we supposed to admit what's going on with this invisible aspect of our personality? At the 12-minute mark of this 20-minute video of Rose's, I felt so physically ill with anger that I just had to stop watching. Ugh. I'm non-binary. I'm confident in making that claim because of reasons I will dive into later. But first, allow me to give you a look into the history of my own gender journey and a glimpse into how I came to this conclusion. Age 3. I request my mother paints my nails because I see her doing it, and afterwards my dad throws a fit. Throughout childhood, I'm unhappy with my assigned gender at birth and do everything I can to be as close to a girl as I possibly can. Avoiding haircuts, playing with Barbies, sneaking into my mum's wardrobe and putting on her shoes that were obviously far too big for me. Getting the worst bullying of anyone in that school for being noticeably different. I got called Gaylord, Puff, Tranny, long before I knew what those words even meant. Age 14, I come out as gay after realizing all my crushes were for guys. And warning, secondary school is not the place to do this, and the cruelty became physical. Age 18, 19, I come out as a transvestite, but not transsexual, because I have no intention of physically transitioning, but socially it's very important that I am seen completely in, a feminine female way. Age 23, I finally changed my name, title, and pronouns. I've always hated what is now known as my dead name. Age 30 to 31, a college project that I was doing forced me to do more research into LGBTQIA plus identities, and I discover a whole new world of people and identities that I've been in the dark with, basically. After discovering what non-binary is, having several people describing their own various experiences, I conclude that actually, yeah, this is what I am also. It makes more sense than just trans woman. Age 33, I come to terms with my feelings of inadequacy when it comes to my body image and realize that for a very long time I've been trying to compensate for my lack of cleavage. So I feel incomplete without them, and I start to pursue hormones. Age 34, I start HRT. Now, everything's great. I'm confidently secure in my identity, and my transition is going well. Until last month, I started seeing a new sexual playmate. For the sake of this video, that person shall remain completely anonymous. Anyway, when I started taking the feminizing hormones, I knew that doing so would lower my libido. But I did it anyway because my desire to grow breasts was greater than my desire for the masculine libido. I resisted so hard letting go of this part of myself, starting on really low doses, but then increasing more and more because, nothing was happening, in an attempt to attain a more androgynous body and relieve my inadequacies. But turns out I overshot it, and in losing that essential part of myself, I ended up paying a price that I am not willing or able to pay without cutting off a vital part of my personality. I'm not saying that I did the wrong thing. I was certain that at the time HRT was the right decision to make, and I knew what I would be giving up. I just didn't know how important it would be to me until him. It's not that this person has put ideas into my head or anything like that. Rather, seeing him has brought to the forefront things in my mind that I have been ignoring. So for 14 months, after taking hormones, certain things now function differently. But this leads me to the gender identity crisis that I am now living through. I'm having erections less frequently, they require more stimulus, and sometimes they're even painful. Ejaculation is basically non-existent at this point. My orgasms are less centralized and less satisfying. But I am told the mouthfeel is just as good and satisfying and still as big as before, so yay. All of which I did not want to give up in the first place, but I figured it would be worth it for the upsides. To be in touch with my emotions more and be able to cry more and have nicer skin and less body hair and losing the man smell, which I didn't even realize I'd lost until it was pointed out to me that I don't have one. And of course, I needed the breasts, and I still do. But now I realize that I'm just not okay with all that comes with that and all that it entails. Hence the identity crisis. Just when I thought I had it all figured out, I realized something was wrong. So, what does that make me? Well, without hormones, am I still trans? Am I trans enough? Ugh. Yes. Yes, but I will save the reasons why for the conclusion. The truth is, I am struggling to work out what the hell I am, and who I am, and what I want, and who I want to be. Basically, my self-image has been shattered, and I have to figure out how to rebuild it, which has been a long, painful process. There have been times when I've been sat in the dark, listening to Nine Inch Nails, and crying over my identity and everything I've lost. Which is very similar to me 20 years ago, sitting in the dark listening to Radiohead and crying over my identity and how it makes me unlovable. So not much has really changed. But I have stopped taking the hormones now. I need to take several steps back from the situation, have a breather, reassess what I want, and then make that decision. In the meantime, I expect my body is going to drive me up the wall. The hormone function, you know, should return to the way it was before. But what if it doesn't? It's likely that I have made myself infertile, but that doesn't bother me. If I was interested in having children, I probably would have done something about it sooner. What does worry me is the rest of it. The sexual function I need to please myself and my partners adequately. Like, shit. It's not like I was a butch, manly, high tea alpha beforehand. You know, what if I've done irreparable damage? Do I need to start taking testosterone supplements? Like, do I even want that? I don't fucking know. I've started presenting more masculine in public as a way of coping with the stress of the situation. And when I say mask, I still mean stylish. Fedora, but make it fashion. And I've had some varying results. We look at my notes in my gender journal because, you know, of course I've been writing notes in a journal through this difficult time. I had a customer in the gents do a double take after seeing me thinking I'm female. I've had other customers call me sir. I'm not sure how I feel about either of these in guy mode. Good, bad, confused. I also got called he and didn't hate it. They feels good and affirming, and when someone calls me they or them, I do my internal happy dance because it's, you know, I'm being accepted. But at this point, I think I'm just pronoun indifferent. I'm reached the point where I no longer care. And the reason for this is it's like my psyche is whiplashed into being the man I was unsuccessfully raised to be because I'm scared of what I might have lost. I don't know anything about being a man. What do the instructions say? Be swift as the coursing river, with all the force of a great typhoon, with all the strength of a raging fire, mysterious as the dark side of the moon. Kind of vague. What I know is that without breasts, I am deeply insecure about my body. I feel inadequate, but without a fully functioning dong, I'm also unhappy and feel inadequate. So you might be wondering, what about breast augmentation surgery? Well, I don't feel that that's the right path for me. No offense to anyone who has done or wants to do that. Go for it. More power to you. I just feel it would be wrong for me. Because any breasts I do have, I want to be completely natural, you know, living tissue. with feel and everything. And I don't think that implants can achieve that. And also, I'm not greedy. Like, I just wanted a bit of a boost from little A's to big B's, you know? That would be ideal. Basically, I'm having dysphoria over not being able to make my body match my desires. And it can't do both, so I have to choose. And my brain's left going, what the fuck? Like, this is the cause of the schism within me. I want this, and I can't have both. But this is all physical. What's going on in my head? What is my identity, my ideal and my reality not matching? Yes, it's painful. I'm sure anyone who's been through anything like this should be able to understand. To paraphrase Natalie Wynn, do I feel like a man or do I feel like a woman? And the truth is, I feel like trash. I've struggled to balance my masculine and my feminine sides my entire life. Currently, when I see people around me, I think, do I want to look and be like them, like her, like him? Part 3, conclusion. So I was planning on filming this part outside in the sunshine to signify brighter days and things to come. And of course this is England and you can't predict the weather and it's raining. So even though I don't know what path I need to take to initiate happiness, I know what labels to apply to myself. I am trans by definition. That definition being experiencing gender in a way that is incongruent with one's assigned gender at birth. What about dysphoria? Well, it's not necessarily the measure of being trans, but yes, I have it. And this is how I know I'm non-binary. And for me, just for me, for speaking to my experiences alone in a way that other non-binary people might resonate with, but I'm pretty certain that not all will, because everyone's gender experiences are different and everyone's gender journey is unique. That non-binary means kind of a bit of both binary genders, but also kind of neither. It's like I recognize that there's a comfort zone, physically androgynous and socially gender non-conforming, and I tried to get there using hormones, and I think I overshot the mark and wound up confused, panicked, regretful, and in pain. I know that I am comfortable in a female social role with the clothes and the presentation and everything, but I still have male needs and urges that I must honor in order to be true to myself. So something that a colleague of mine told me at work yesterday that I felt was so good that I wanted to include it here is that he described that you can fit most people quite neatly onto like a chart of sexuality and gender. Like, here's masculine, here's feminine, likes men, likes women, and most people will fit neatly into some kind of box description somewhere on that graph. But with me, I'm off the map apparently, because he said the words, "There be dragons." And you know what? I kind of love that definition, because it's just so accurate to the fact that everything's so vague and you can't pin down the chaos that's going on up here. Also, I really like that because in his own way, he's showing me that that's his way of accepting me as I am, and that makes me feel like, yeah, I am going to be okay through this. Non-binary is a useful and meaningful label because no other category fits me or other people like me who are really uncomfortable with the labels man or woman. And we don't need haters and naysayers, disbelievers like Rose of Dawn telling us that we're not valid. Just like all trans people don't need transphobes telling them that they're invalid. So I'm going to leave you now with my usual sign-off, which has never been more poignant. So to all you lovely people out there, I remind you of this. Non-binary is valid. God damn it. Rose also managed to straw someone. Shit. Edit. That means... fuck's sake. Fucking rain. Right. God, I hope I can edit that shit together. So to all your love... oh shit, that's wonky. There be dragons.